Hello YouTube audience. Today is January 18th, 2020, and Happy New Year. Um, Today I'm going to work on this Lawson cypress. The variety name is Snow White. This is one of the first trees that I styled. I first styled it in September 20th, 2019. One of my best friends, Matthew, gave it to me when he was visiting from France. So I'm pretty much it is one of the very important trees in my heart, so I'm trying to treat it as careful as possible. So after 3 months of the initial styling, the tree is still alive and pretty healthy, get through the winter and also get through the snow several days ago. So it's January, almost late January, still a little bit early for repotting, but the Seattle weather is very mild, and I checked the weather from in the next week. Basically, there's no extremely cold weather, so I think, although it's a little bit early, but I think it's safe to repot at this time. So the important thing about repotting is basically you should repot in the season in maybe early spring, and avoid extreme cold temperature, and when the tree, ideally the tree just start to grow its foliage, so the energy that's stored in the roots start to push into the foliage, push into the growth of the foliage, but the root hasn't started growing yet, so that you can do some reductions of the roots, but without hurting the roots too much. And when the foliage start growing, it's going to produce energy and send back to the root to help the growth of the root. So February is probably the best time. Now is late January, almost February, and also our weather is relatively mild. So I think I'm probably okay to repot it right now. So I just realized that our heater is blowing at the tree, which is probably not very good. So let me quickly turn off the heater. And now I'm going to try to take the tree out of the pot. So what you can see here, last time I put some fertilizer in the soil. Now all the fertilizers are gone. So this is the tea bag, and I put the fertilizer in the tea bag. Oh, I think there are still some fertilizer left in there, so I can actually put it back later. but maybe not right now. Fertilizers, I'm going to take it out. It's in a tea bag. Okay, take all 3 fertilizers out. It just rained today, so it's a little bit wet. Let's see if I can get the tree out easily. I may squeeze the pot a little bit so that hopefully I can take it out a little bit easier. Okay, not too difficult. Okay, the roots are pretty fine. It's relatively healthy. You can see a bit, some of the right roots. Let's see. The roots are relatively healthy. You can see there are water coming out there. Wow, very wet. So hopefully, I hope it's going to survive. So the first thing, I need to get rid of all these soil. You can see the top soil is coming off fairly easily. It's because 3 months ago, I think I take these top soils off, and of course it's not too pot bound yet. So I'm just going to carefully take the soil out. Hopefully I can so several months ago I kind of decided the front is here. I think there are some surface root there at this place. So I'm going to take my time and get the root rake and rake out hopefully most of the soil. Try to rake it from the center out. Try to get most of the soil. From the center out. The roots are relatively well established. It's has basically filled the whole pot, but it's not extremely root bound yet, so it's probably a good time to repot. I'm just trying to slowly get the roots, rake out some of the roots. I'm going to tear some of these roots, but I hope there is sufficient roots to support the tree. I'm going to get it from this relatively wet soil. It's probably retaining a lot of the water. I'm trying to get it from here into a very open texture soil, and also maybe into a smaller pot. So it's going to take some time to tease the roots out. Just gradually from the center, the rake go from the center out, and I think it's the correct time to repot, because I'm seeing a little bit of the white root, which is the growing root, but it's not dominating all the roots yet. So I probably would need to rake for a while. So let's see. So the soil I'm going to use is this soil. 1/2 akadama, 1/2 Japanese pumice, and 1/2 lava rocks. Oh no, 1/3 of each ingredients. It's very open texture soil, and it's going to promote a lot of root growth. Although this tree is already, you can see there are tons of roots in there. So it's going to take some time to rake all the roots out. We will need to get the roots small enough, root ball small enough to go into the new pot, which is much smaller compared to the original pot. So it's going to take some time. the pot I'm going to put it in is this pot. It's much shallower, much smaller pot, so it would take some time to rake out the tree. So let's see. I think because you can see the soil is very wet, it's very good at holding on to waters. I think the tree is going to enjoy it in the new soil, because although the roots, something that's very important for the roots, of course, is water, but the root also need a lot of air, oxygen, and if the soil is holding on to too much water, it's not going to be easy for the roots to take up oxygen. So the roots may suffocate, and so it may not grow as well. If we can get a lot of bonsai soil, are all these very open texture, almost like a rock. For example, a lava rock is a very so it's coarse grain, so water can go through the bonsai soil much faster than it can go through this normal potting soil. And those rocks are also very porous, a lot of very fine pores, which can in fact retain some water. So it let the water go through very fast, and it allow a lot of air to go into the root system, and it also retain some water, so the plants the roots can take the raw water from the rocks. So compared to normal soil, it's much better in allowing air to go into the root system. So it's going to strongly stimulate the growth of roots. In the long run, it's going to be very good for the health of the tree compared to staying in all these wet soil. So in this soil, it's you could water the tree when they are sitting on such a wet soil. It's less likely to under water it. I suspect you could water it once or twice a week, and it's not going to be dangerous for the trees to dry out. But in the bonsai soil, it drains much better, and it also need more watering. So In the bonsai soil, you could actually water it once a day, so it's less likely to overwater, but it's more likely to underwater. So once we put it in bonsai soil, we would need to maybe water it more. Trying to get the roots out, get the soil out of the roots. In this process, I may be tearing some roots, but hopefully, I hope the tree has enough roots so that I hope the tree has enough roots to survive. I'm just going to patiently rake out the soil from the roots. Overall, I think the roots are still pretty healthy. I'm not seeing a bunch of dead roots yet. Okay. So this is because this is the first time I repot the tree, so I'm trying to be relatively conservative. I used to use if you have already repotted the trees and know where the major roots are, sometimes you can take a saw to saw out half of the roots, maybe the half that's under, and then it would be fine. Peter Chen has demonstrated kind of this, he called it cake slicing method. Just slice half the root off and then the tree would be fine. But since this is the first time I repotted, I do not know where the major roots are. So I'm just going to do it slowly, gradually, rake out the roots. Hopefully it's not going to damage too much of the important roots. I'm just going to do it little by little. do it gradually. Wow, that's lots of soil. Yep, that's lots of soil. Little by little. Just trying to loosen the soil from the roots. The roots are very well established, so it's not easy to loosen it. But just be very patient. I think over time I will be able to get rid of almost all the original soil. I think I can do that. And then change them into bonsai soil. You can see, I hope, not sure if you can see it. You can see how much soil I get rid of already. So there are still maybe half of it to go. So just need to be patient. Gradually, we can get most of the soil out. From the bottom also, from center out, gradually. There are really a lot of roots. And I'm going to gradually reduce it to the root ball. A lot of fibrous roots. Let's see. Can I put this into the new pot? Oh, still a little bit. I still need to get rid of more soil.
The tree is extremely healthy, I think, because it has so much roots. Let's do it gradually. It's probably, in fact, a good time to repot the tree because it's already filling the, pretty much is filling the pots. I think it is a balance. On the one hand, when you repot a tree, give it some new soil. It provides new space for the roots to grow, so it's going to invigorate the tree. On the other hand, if we, for example, get rid of too much roots, maybe get rid of 90% of the roots, which I did on one tree before, and it's probably going to kill the tree. So it is a balance that I'm still trying to figure out. So now I'm being very gentle and being very patient. I think that's important. Also, I have never repotted a Lawson cypress before. Different trees has different tolerance to how much roots you can get rid of. I don't know how much root Lawson cypress, how much root removal Lawson cypress can tolerate. So I'm trying to be relatively conservative. Gradually get rid of some roots. think the roots are relatively fine, but they are not weak. They are fine roots, but they are healthy roots. I haven't seen a big woody roots yet. A lot of time when you are making a bonsai from a nursery plant, there would be a tap root that's going straight down. It is the root that not so much to absorb nutrient and absorb water and all that, but to go very deep into the ground to stabilize the tree. In bonsai, they normally would cut off the tap roots, and I haven't found a very major tap roots yet. The other thing you may remember is I take a lot of the branches I cut off from this tree, and I stuck them into the soil as cuttings. Now I found that a lot of the cuttings is probably very hopeful to survive. So normally the plants that have a long and thick tap roots are plants that grow from seed, because maybe you have seen some of those videos where they kind of put the seed into a glass container and watch how the root grow. You would see when the seed germinate, it first send down a tap root deep into the soil, and from those tap roots you grow a lot of finer roots. But the tap roots is basically going straight down into the soil until it hit the bottom of the container. So if you find a tap root in a nursery plant, you probably will need to gradually reduce the tap roots. Maybe first cut off a half, and then next repot, cut out another half until the bottom is completely flat, and in the end you can put it in a very shallow container. And because this plant grow very well from cuttings, plants that grow from cutting and air layering, they are not reproduce asexually, not from a seed. Sometimes they would not have a tap root. Most of the time they would not have a very thick root. This made me think that it could be the case for this tree. I haven't seen a tap root yet, but maybe as time go by, as I tear out more roots, I may be able to see a tap root later. I don't know yet, but I haven't seen a tap root at this point. We actually got a pretty nice plant. It has a good root flare. Let's see. Okay, it's better and better, closer and closer to being able to fit into the new pot. I just want to gradually tease out the roots. Looks like we have seen this is really dense roots, a lot of roots. Made me think about the tree that's in the castle in the sky. In the end, the tree just float to the universe like that. I still need to get rid of more soil. Just gradually get rid of some more soil. Gradually loosen the soil. Sometimes go from the top, sometimes go from the bottom. We can see some nice surface root too. Look at how much soil I get rid of. It's like, you may not be able to believe it. The pot can hold so many soil, but it did. I guess the correct wording is substrate, not soil. Okay, overall, I don't see. I see the overall the roots are pretty healthy all over, I think. So those who have seen the video I made turning a Italian stone pine Christmas tree into bonsai. In that video, I make a very big mistake, is that when I saw there was plenty of roots, but I did not see the bottom of the roots. Most of them are dead. Only after I cut out a lot of roots from the top, I realized the bottom of the roots are dead. So then it would be quite difficult, probably unlikely for the tree to survive this operation. Although I left plenty of roots, but those roots are mostly dead, so it's not going to help the tree to survive. So now, while I'm teasing these roots, I'm trying to examine all the roots and see whether they are alive or dead. I feel that most of them are still alive. I think they are good roots. So the tree is indeed pretty healthy. Yeah, the thing about buying those trees from so this is from Lawson nursery, so it's a very good nursery. So no wonder the tree is very healthy. But sometimes when I buy trees from a supermarket, they wrap these plants in a very nice wrap. So if you wanted just to look at a beautiful little plant for several weeks and then throw it away, that would be fine. But the wraps are normally not permeable to water, so the water cannot drain very well through those beautiful package. The first thing after you buy the plant, if you want the plant to survive for a long time, is to take the plant out of the package, those beautiful, they wrap it like a Christmas gift and sell them. That make the plants easier to sell, but it's actually very dangerous to the plant because it blocks the drainage, and it could, over time, if you water it, it could cause a lot of root rot. So if you buy a tree from for example, Christmas gift that's wrapped in a beautiful wrap, if you want the tree to survive in the long term, the first thing you do after you bought the tree is take it out of the beautiful package. If possible, just take the tree out of the pot and kind of examine the roots and make sure they are still healthy. So that's what I learned from that experience, because what I think happened to the Italian stone pine was it was wrapped in a beautiful wrap for too long, and when it's sitting in the supermarket, people water it, but the water cannot drain well, and it killed a lot of the roots in the bottom of the tree. So that's what I learned from that experience. But this plant is relatively good because the drainage, you can see this This pot has very good drainage, very big drainage hole. So the roots are pretty healthy, I think. If you touch the roots, a rotted root is soft, and the healthy root is relatively elastic. It's like something that's alive and dead. You can basically feel it by touching it. So I think these roots are relatively good. They are mostly alive. So I think I can cut some of the roots. Of course, not 90% of the root, but maybe 30% of the roots. I think the tree would be fine. Just trying to rake it out from the center. Rake out the soil, most of the soil. You can see how much more loose is the soil. I've raked out a lot of it. So I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on repotting. It's still, I don't think there is a consensus whether or not you can completely bare root a plant. Most of the professionals say that you cannot bare root a plant, but you also see someone like Nigel Saunders always bare root a plant and wash the whole plant clean, and then his tree survive. I do not completely understand this, but I think if someone is a professional, they probably has thousands of trees to take care of. So and they probably go with a more conservative way to do things so that it's less likely to kill the plant. Not like if you bare root something, it must kill the plant. It may not be that, but if you bare root the plant, maybe you need to put more attention into taking care of it and see what does the plant need and things like that. So I think not bare rooting a plant is something that's more conservative. Maybe it would leave the plant more possibility to survive, but if you are taking care of the plant very well, maybe even you bare root it, it's going to survive still. So I always debate with myself how much soil I can get rid of, and should I bare root, should I not bare root? And both sides has their experience, and both sides has their reasons. So the people who think you should never bare root a plant, of course, when you in the process of bare rooting it, you probably damage more roots and make the because more damage, it's more likely to kill the plant. So that's probably the reason why you normally do not bare root a plant. But there's also the other side is If you do not bare root the plant, you are going to have some soil that's very wet, and the bonsai soil are very well draining, so it's going to create inconsistency. Part of the soil is always wet and part of the soil dry very fast, and there may be chance of root rot over time. So both sides has their arguments. I think I would try my best to get rid of the original soil, but at the same time, try to be very gentle. Try not to damage too much root. I think that's what I'm going to do, so that I can try to make the soil as consistent as possible as I can, but hopefully not damaging too much root. Just gradually rake the soil out, not raking the roots out. As long as the roots start to move, the soil is going to start to fall out. But I'm not raking through the roots. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to remove most of the soil as good as I can, and at the same time try not to damage too much root. But this plant is very, very healthy, so I really hope that I'm not going to kill it, because it's a plant that's very special to me, and it may not be an expensive plant, but it's a very valuable plant to me. I'm still raking and trying to get to the root ball of the plant. Try to get as much soil out as I can, but try not to damage too much root. Very, very dense root. The tree is growing really well. Although the soil is very wet, but it's probably very good soil. Okay, I start to see roots that's probably going round, not really that radial. In bonsai, you're trying to preserve the roots that are going outward, fanning out from the center. But in the pot, a lot of times, because the roots are confined by the pot, a lot of times they would go around the root base. It's not going to fan out, but going around. Hello. Okay, there's someone's calling for me. I will come back.